Welcome to the latest edition of the going completely off already. First State Kopites podcast. We're recording this on the day where Liverpool managed to draw with Manchester United at Anfield 0-0. Leaves us, I think, in third place in the table. So not an auspicious place to begin. Probably something to say about that performance later on. But we're delighted to have Justin Wells from LFC NY joining us. LFC NY is the oldest Liverpool supporters club in North America. So we've probably got a lot of ground to cover before we get to talking about that match. If you haven't subscribed, we're available on all sorts of platforms, so please do that. And whatever you're doing, please stay safe out there. So Justin, welcome. I forgot to say, Sean's with me today. Good to have you in two shows in a row. So Justin, we're really going to do what we used to do a lot of, which was talk to people across North America about the kind of Liverpool experience, and where we usually begin. So why not start there? Is how did you become a Red?
So I became a Red around 2004, 2005. That Champions League run really kind of drew me. So I'm 39 years old. So I was 23 at the time, just had graduated from college and was working for an English firm where every Tuesday and Wednesday at 2:45 p.m. Champions League games came on the TV. And I've always been a very big U.S. soccer fan. Like it didn't come to it as to, discovering what soccer is. It came to it as watching more of it at the club level rather than the national team level. And the thing that did it for me is I was just driven by Steven Gerrard. Just remains my favorite player of all time, probably my favorite pro athlete of all time. Just seeing how he carried Liverpool through the group stages, through some of those knockout stages, and definitely through the final. It just drew me to the player and it drew me to the club, and I got hooked real quickly. So my first taste was one of joy and glory, and some of the subsequent bites after that were pretty bitter until just recently.
Yeah. So actually, you and Sean have a lot in common, because that's where Sean's support of Liverpool started. So it's probably some notes to compare there. Were there any moments after 2005 where you kind of wondered what you'd done in making this selection?
Yeah, I one time woke up on a Saturday morning for a 7:15 kickoff against Everton, where I was also not in the finest of shape from a large Friday night out in the city. And I got to watch Roy Hodgson say that we were the better side after losing 2-0 at Goodison. So yeah, there were that was a real checking and questioning of faith moment, but I didn't want to support anybody else at that point. Like I said, I fell in love with the side, and the fact that, 5 years into it, it was hurting me this much. It's the type of thing where I knew that I cared.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. If you got through Roy Hodgson, that's a good moment. Right.
Yeah. I think that's an important piece of it too, though, because I think a lot of the people that became supporters because of the 2004, 2005 Champions League run, you kind of got sucked in, from the Rafa years, but then there was the whole Hicks and Gillette saga, and then Hodgson. It was like, I don't know. For me, it made me care about the club more, because I just hated seeing that happen to him. So I got more passionate about it, even though it was a terrible thing to have to live through as a supporter. So
it just felt like for a decade after Rafa left that our only chance of really winning anything was just lightning in a bottle, like the 2013-14 season. Like that's all because after, like, it was just get up there, and every single time we finished in second place, you get really excited for the next season, and you're going to finish sixth. And you're losing critical players like Xabi Alonso, or like losing Suarez, or losing Torres, or losing Coutinho. It's the type of thing where it's like you're trying to figure out where the team you support lies in the football food chain, and you realize that the history is at the top, but at the moment we're not. We weren't, and it's kind of nice to see that righted, because I definitely like supporting us more than when we're winning than when we're not. But I'll do both.
Well, it seems it's a little easier, right, when they just keep on winning. And we'll get on to talk about the recent run. But what if you think about so obviously it was 2005 Champions League final. What are some of your other favorite memories of watching Liverpool And I know you mentioned you've been to Anfield, so feel free to lead into
So
the news.
I've been to Anfield twice, both during the Klopp era,
Mhm.
and I find myself to be a harbinger of good luck at Anfield because the two games I've gone to, West Ham in that was the 18-19 season, sorry, the 17-18 season, won 4-1, created loads of chances, got to see all three of the front three score, and Burnley during the run in the 18-19 season, once again, created loads of chances, scored 4 goals. So if you want to see Liverpool score goals, just send me to matches, but give me a seat, guaranteed 4 spot.
Right. Well, let's see what we can do about that.
Yeah. But also the last trip at Anfield that I went to, I did get to do the stadium tour, which is really fantastic. And I highly recommend it to anybody who's going to go over, when we can resume going over for matches, because you really get to, see the guts of the stadium, and they do a really good job of tying in the history of the stadium. Giving you a chance to be able to see Goodison from the upper tier of the main stand is also kind of fun, because you can see just exactly how close the two clubs are. And it definitely makes you understand the rivalry a bit more.
Yeah.
Justin, how do you schedule that in normal times? Is it something that, like, I would assume, obviously they're not doing any tours the days of a match, maybe not the day before a match. And like, how far in advance did you have to schedule?
I actually booked it like 2 days in advance. I booked it when I was in London waiting to take a train ride up to Liverpool. And I actually did get to go in day of match. The only thing the day before the match, the only thing that you could see day of match is the home dressing room.
Okay.
Yeah, because they've prepped that, so they give you the visitors' dressing room and like a facsimile of what the home one would look like.
Yeah. And I don't know how many times you've done the tour but it's definitely improved, and there's definitely a more of a production to it now, especially with the cast your eyes over to Goodison Park down there, and the kind of I don't know how the elevation, it must only be a couple of 100 feet, but it definitely looks like it's down there, where it kind of belongs. But I think you can actually, in normal times, I think it's possible on like a weekday just to walk up, but I think that changed when there were trophies to view or special things. I think you definitely needed a booking then to make sure you had a space. So obviously Liverpool score a lot of goals when you go see them. What other kind of pre-match rituals, if you're not at Anfield, might come into play that we conjure up in the next couple of months that might help us, if not score 4 goals, and certainly start scoring a few more goals than we have been?
I don't know. I think I might have to turn to live animal sacrifice at some point soon, because I'm not going to be able to take this much longer. I mean, it feels like we haven't scored a goal in weeks, mainly because we haven't. And I don't know which one of my pregame habits I'm figuring is like putting that energy out in the world, just to where our front three are just going to stop shooting. But if I can figure it out, I'll be the first to let you guys know. But like my pre-match rituals during normal times are, I usually watch most games at 11th Street. I usually show up there, try to get there early to set up, to be able to sign up new members, make sure that, all of our merch is out, make sure that I talk to the bar owner about just what might be coming. Yeah. Paul is about to do that. He actually does have an LFCNY scarf that I can see in the background. It is a lovely looking scarf. We hope to have more of them. We hope to have more of them soon, but just making sure that we do that, and also just trying to be there early to welcome people in, because I know, we typically get a mix of members. There's a lot of people coming in from out of town, both from, other North American supporters clubs, or from, other countries. We get a decent amount of people who actually are, in town from Liverpool and come in to watch games with us. And what we want to do is make sure that we welcome anybody in to 11th Street or any of our member bars, so that we give the best match day experience that anybody could ask for. Right? Whether or not we provide that, there's obviously a little bit of a thing out of our control, which is the performance. But we try to do what we can, and just make sure that anybody at 11th Street feels welcome. And try to do things like a few other things for our community, like canned food drives, and doing what we can to also help the less fortunate amongst us, because we're a nonprofit. We know our membership base is also really committed to our community. So we try to, try 2 food drives a year.
Awesome. Yeah. So what have you still been doing those during the pandemic, the food drives?
So we haven't done one for the food pantry in the East Village yet this season, but we're probably going to do one soon. We did link up with the New York Evertonians ahead of the instead of the Merseyside Derby in November, and that was October already, and raised about $6,500 for fan supporting food banks back over in Liverpool. So we did have a chance to do that, but I think also coming soon for us is going to have to be a drive for our local food pantry, because there are definitely people in need here as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we've had a challenge, obviously, with collecting food for food banks. We did something actually when they did This Means More challenge. We did a collection, but it was way under what we normally would get for a game. So we've actually been doing financial donations. We did that over the holidays, but it's definitely harder.
It feels like that's what we might have to adapt to too, just because on a typical match day, 11th Street can fit 125 people. Yeah. Right now, with outdoor seating, I think it's 20. Well, they added another section. It's probably about 35 seats. So, simply put, it's obviously understandable. 35 people can bring you a lot less canned food than 125.
Yeah.
I'll just point out real quick that tomorrow is the National Day of Service for anybody that cares. And since we're on that topic, I know there are a number of food drives going on in the area in Delaware. I think we're going to do one up in Hocassin, just like a drive-through, a socially distant, safe kind of thing. So just anybody that's listening, try to do what you can tomorrow.
Thanks, Sean. Sure. You did mention that obviously there's not as many people kind of coming out for games. So what's different about watching, say, today's game compared with a normal day at 11th Street?
Well, I mean, we're out on the street instead of in the bar, so I definitely feel a lot worse about singing, in particular, certain songs that have expletives around Manchester in the middle of the street at 11:30 in the morning. I still did start a Manchester is full of shit song this morning. So, not daunted by it, but it just feels like it's definitely less energetic, especially also, when you're inside, there's a lot more people in there. It's warm. Everybody is closer. You're going to create more noise. And, once again, you're also just not worried about what people think walking by on the street. I mean, this morning I was out, it was 40 degrees. Standing outside in 40-degree weather, you might feel comfortable for 10, 15, 20 minutes. But by the 80th minute today, I was begging us to score, not just because I wanted us to win, but so I could jump up and down and get some blood running through my body again.
Yep. Yeah. We did have some outdoor games, but they stopped being able to close the street down at the beginning of November, unfortunately. But even like the 7:30s in October weren't that warm. So I can only imagine what it was like today.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's we could leave it there, but it was uncomfortable, and the result didn't help.
Yeah. So just how are you staying engaged with all those people who can't make it out? What are you guys doing?
So we tend to try to send emails to our members, typically before every single match, or twice a week. We've tried doing Zoom match viewings. I don't think those are as successful because it's kind of tough to watch a Zoom through one eye on the match and the other screen. I know that I can't do it because I'm going to focus on one and not the other, and it's almost always going to be the Zoom and never the match, which is the opposite of what I'm going for. But I mean, that's what we've done. Zoom, we've done those Zoom things. I think one of the hard things is finding an outlet where you can try to keep a community engaged instead of it kind of just devolving up into a few different cliques. Because, when you go into a place like, 11th Street, or you guys probably know this at your home bar, you do have some people who you naturally, exactly where you usually sit, who you or stand, who's over there with you. Those are the people you're used to talking to. And it feels like without the larger social pull of having everybody be able to congregate in the same place, it does kind of just divert off into smaller groups. But one of the things that is nice is when I can go back over to 11th Street, which I can now do more often, having moved back into Manhattan, I will get to see more and more people and just be able to say hello and make sure that there's someone from the club there to, to meet and greet people and say, hey, we're still a thing. LFCNY isn't going away. It's just tougher for us to do this during this time.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying we're going to have a really big party at 11th Street when we can go back in there to celebrate the title, right? We went 30 years without winning it. We really wanted it. And that party needs to happen. And I really just can't wait for it because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I will talk about this again, but I don't think this is the end for this team either in terms of other things that they will win. This season, maybe putting that to one side. So in terms of like how one thing I was going to say about the Zoom actually is we tried that too, and I think what we found was it was such an unsatisfactory experience that the more we did it, the less and less people actually joined. I actually taken to I don't know about you, and I'm interested as to where you get your information from actually, because I think this season I've become very discerning. I'm only listening to the Anfield Wrap doing the hot mic commentary, so I don't have to listen to kind of any nonsense from Tim Howard and others. And one of the things that I'm doing as well, Sean, you might have noticed, is absolutely not looking at anything on social media or texts or WhatsApp or whatever during the game, because that just drives me crazy too, especially if someone says something I don't agree with. So what's your source, Justin? Where do you get your stuff from?
So I listen to both. I subscribe to both the Anfield Wrap and Anfield Index. I occasionally do some work for Anfield Index. So, I'm a little bit loyal to the platform, but there's a lot of good Reds content out there. I like both of those a lot, but I read a lot of This Is Anfield. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of This Is Anfield. Some very good writers that I think are probably the best and quickest as far as in print for a site. I do also like the Anfield Index Under Pressure podcast because I am a bit of a stat nerd and they are deeply into analytics. I also do like the Anfield Wrap, in particular the hot mic and the post match ones that are done fairly raw. I like both. I actually find that like post match raw content is kind of the most fun because it is the most cathartic.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Did you listen to the post-match show today?
I am not. I've decided that I am not engaging with any media of today's game.
Because I did. So to be honest, I did the same. I even started watching the Browns whatever Kansas game, which I have absolutely no interest in, frankly. But it was a distraction.
I've decided that I'm going to listen to it later tonight. Having the day off tomorrow, probably having a few alcoholic beverages, but after I get the kids to bed, just to try to wrap my head around.
So Sean and I too have an interest in stats, by the way. So interested in kind of whatever you may have to share. We've had a few people on talk about different things, and one thing I was definitely reminded of today. Actually, we had Simon Brundish on probably middle of the year, and the one thing he said was it him or was it Andrew Beasley who said this, that the last two seasons, Liverpool's last two seasons, had been absolutely exceptional in lots of statistical categories, and absolutely nobody has done that, anything close to that 3 years in a row. And that is, despite there's the injuries obviously, but I'm also kind of recognizing that there's some superhuman feat here that would be required to keep it up to that level that they've been at the last 2 years.
I think that was Andrew Beasley.
Yeah.
That particular comment.
Sorry,
the one that stuck out to me, not to jump into today's match, today was, if you remember, Simon Brundish and he makes the point all the time I've seen him, is that like the importance of how well drilled we are, and just all this chopping and changing, I feel like is just a big part of why we don't look as as good as we did the last couple of years, because we're not in a similar routine where we're training and drilling over and over and over again. And when you change the system and add different parts in, it throws things off just that little bit, which is kind of what we're missing. So,
yeah, that maybe feels like a moment to pivot a little then. We didn't get to talk, and maybe we can touch on this at the end about kind of current favorite players, or maybe that'll come out in some of the conversation as we go forward. But today's game, 0-0. Haven't scored a lot of goals in the last few matches. Well, I guess we scored 4 against Villa's under 18s. know if we can count that quite so easily. Klopp says he was happy with the performance, but not the result. Of course, Solskjaer claimed that this was a missed opportunity. Not quite sure what game he was watching, but anyway, maybe that's the level of their aspiration. Just soak it all in, and maybe we'll get a chance. Justin, what did you learn today? What did you take away?
Our front three need to shoot the ball. Like it feels like our attack has kind of gone stale to the point of a late years Wenger Arsenal attack where they're just trying to walk the ball into the net. I know that, analytically, the concept of taking a long shot and shots from outside the area are just frowned upon. But our best opportunity today came from one, that Thiago shot that De Gea had to palm away, which was, to me, was our best opportunity on an actual attempt to shoot the ball at the net. It just feels like we're so gun shy at this point to shoot. And it's really bothering me because you're not going to win games where you don't shoot the ball. And it also it's really frustrating because our front three have typically been good enough as to where if one of them or two of them are slumping, the third one is on fire and can get through and carry us. But that just seems to have evaporated because all three of them are falling apart at the same time. I think, unfortunately, one of them is down to the fact that one of my favorite Liverpool players ever looks like, who's the one who's supposed to create space for all of them, the other two, looks like he's just running in quicksand. Bobby just doesn't seem particularly sharp. He doesn't seem to be creating much for anything. He did have one nifty chance that he created for Sadio where he played him through with a back heel. And all the tricks and flicks are kind of what you associate from him more than goal scoring. But if he's not going to be doing that and also the goal scoring dries up, Bobby's utility to the team does become significantly less. And, a team like United, who aren't going to try to play conventionally at the back, his pressing the ball, is of lesser value. That said, he also did create a decent chance for Sadio with a Harry Maguire pass that he, blocked away perfectly. But I feel like he's been kind of one who's misfiring immensely. It also feels like, to me, another player who I really love, Gini Wijnaldum, finally the minutes this season look like they're catching up with his legs a bit because he just today he seemed to die at about the hour mark.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there, right? There's still, Thiago's not played many minutes with people, and I do wonder whether some of the rebalancing hasn't quite happened where they know the best place to be in with him. The one thing I'd say before I ask you, Sean, is there was Athletic had an article, and I think it was this week, but it was certainly pretty recent, where they talked about how the front three's expected goals, especially Salah's, and their expected goal assists were lower than they had been for the last two seasons, which I think means they're taking shots that aren't quite as good, and they are not creating as much for each other as they were kind of back in the days when we were scoring, when we were averaging 2.5 points a game. So, what your take is on today, front three, imbalance?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Justin. Like, it is frustrating, and you do want to see him shoot in certain situations. But I just think that it's, or like, we're drilled to play a certain way, and they're just not used to having to shoot like that. They're used to trying to look for that better chance. And like Paul said, I did see a stat today where these last 5 games, our XG is relatively low, even though we're getting a large number of shots, or, whatever, 15, 18 shots, but the XG is still somewhere like, 1.1 to 1.5. And that tells you that the shot quality is pretty poor. And it's not surprising, because they're packing in, the teams are parking the bus. And I just go back to, the fact that both of our fullbacks are not pushing as far up the pitch, and our midfielders are not pushing into the box as much, which means that you're not likely to have as much space. You're going to have 2 or 3 men between you and the goal, and they're probably reluctant to shoot because they either think that it's going to they're going to give the ball away, or it's going to be blocked. But I don't disagree that, yeah, it is frustrating. And a lot of the time I wish they would just shoot, because it's just a fact of where we are right now. Like we're not gonna be able to play the way we have been the last couple of years, and so we probably just need to take the shot when we have the opportunity. I would slightly disagree in terms of like the best chance today. For me, the best chance was probably either one of Bobby's two in the first half, the one where he cut back to his right foot and it was blocked. I thought he could have taken it one time on his left foot and it would have been better. And then there was the other one we had it at the top of the box and he had an open look at goal, or he could have laid it off to Robbo and he just kind of shanked it into the stands, unfortunately. And then the other one was Mo in the second half, even though it got deflected and went out of bounds for a corner. But he was, he had it on the 6-yard box right in front of goal and he just couldn't manage to get the ball on goal. It got blocked and out of bounds. But yeah. So I just think it's kind of a knock-on effect. We're not getting good quality chances, and it's probably frustrating for them at this point too.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it'd be interesting to look at today's XG and XG assists for the front three, but it did feel like they probably had more. Well, maybe Firmino had more chances than he has had in recent games. A couple of the things, just to go back to you, Justin. So one of the things it also said in the article was that Andy Robertson was the only one who was creating as many chances this season as he had in the previous 2 seasons. And I thought he looked a little off in the first half, when I thought we were actually starting to move it at pace in a way that we perhaps hadn't done in the last couple of games. One other thing I'd throw in is, I don't know if you read the piece about De Gea's stats. One of the things that he's not great at is shots from distance, and so a lot of those games where he's supposed to have he's having a nightmare have usually happened where someone's hit shots from distance. Another goalies might have saved them and he hasn't, where he's obviously very good around the kind of 6-yard box. So a few things in there, but I think a couple of performances today that weren't quite where they needed to be, especially in that first half, even though I thought overall the team dynamic in the first half was pretty good.
Yeah, it just feels like all the places that we've needed to create magic in the past 2 years gone a little bit dry. Like Robertson, I think, has been really, really good all season and very dependable. But there's also another issue with this, which is the primary creator of your ability to score goals really doesn't need to be the left back who you use to progress the ball, right? Like if you think about what Andrew Robertson's function is in the side, he's not there to be a creator. He's there to get up the pitch and kind of sometimes be the last ball in rather than responsible for creating the entirety of the play. So it does, I think it's great for Robertson that he is able to, remain consistently creative and keep his creativity in line with what it, has been. But it's really down to the fact that Mane is not creating for anybody right now. Salah, who was creating for other players at the beginning of the season and himself, is now doing neither of those things and is being alarmingly easily be marked out of games. And then Firmino, as I mentioned, just seems to be a step slow. And then Trent's delivery has been really poor. Now, it was nice to see him get a few really nice raking switches in today. Like maybe that's a sign of potentially there's some signs that maybe the funk could break, but he's definitely in a funk and it's definitely impacting our ability to create and score.
Yeah. You brought me to one topic that I was going to kind of not steer clear of, but mention in passing. I do think I was listening to, as I said, the hot mic from the Alpha Rap today, and I thought Neil Atkinson put it best. It's like, when did it become a rule that Mo Salah can never have a foul given for him? Because there were some instances there today. So I do wonder whether, it appears like he's easy to knock off the ball. That's usually because he doesn't get the foul when someone's grabbed him, especially the Maguire around the neck thing. That's just
it's a part of it. It's definitely a part of it. Yeah. It's got to be. I mean, anybody who's ever played at any level knows that when you're getting beaten up physically and the referee isn't gonna give that call to you, it does make your head drop.
Yeah.
Like you're used to being able to play against your opponent. You're not used to being able to play against your opponent and the referee. And there were some things in the refereeing in today's game, that were, this isn't like the anti-United conspiracy point, but we doubled their foul count. We had the ball twice as much as them. Like, how does that happen? Right. And then also, I am never going to get over this, even though there's no guarantee that Mane would have scored it.
Yes, I know what you're talking
He
about.
blew the whistle before the additional minute had completed.
I have never seen that. I have never seen that where like a team was on the break for a chance like that, and the referee blows the whistle before the time was supposed to be up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I just couldn't. I thought it was just me at first, and then I opened Twitter at halftime, and everybody was posting about it. I was like, yeah, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
But and that's honestly like something like that is going to be deflating. I mean, I know we're mentality monsters, and I mean, we really are. But I do think that it is a lot of it, and it's not just Mo. It's Mane gets beat up too, and he just gets kicked to hell, and they don't call anything, and they just get up and play on. But at some point, that's gonna affect you, especially when everything else seems to be going against you.
So Justin, that you won't know this, but that's music to my ears, because it's a point I often make about, like, we generally foul less than anybody on average. We give up less yellow cards than anybody. You could argue they're a bit too nice. So the nonsense of United with all that defending with like twice as many fouls, giving all those 50-50s. Yeah, I thought that I don't want to say that Tini is the best referee. I'm clearly not going to say that, but I don't think he's the worst. But I think what that refereeing is indicative of what we have to put up with the kind of Mane and Salah don't get fouls, 50-50s don't end up our way. And the first time we commit a foul, it's a booking, and somehow Fred can kick people up in the air, and we don't go back to those instances.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, and there's a really good piece in the Tompkins Times that Paul Tompkins did an assessment of referees and penalties awarded. And, consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously, English players get more calls.
Yep.
I mean, Wilf Zaha is a really good, tricky dribbler. Not going to take that away from him. He absolutely probably gets fouled quite a bit. Same thing goes for Jack Grealish. But there's no way that they're getting fouled, that much more than Mo Salah or Sadio Mane, who are taking more dribbles, in aggregate than any other team, save City, in other teams' penalty areas. So I think the measure of protection that they're afforded is just not there.
And I think, without kind of going down that path to the end, because we will come back to talk about some of the football. I think when you're not quite on, that is significant. When
it is.
I mean, there was a whole conversation Neil Atkinson was having with John Gibbons about offsides today. There's a whole sequence where United pumped the ball forward. Rashford looked offside. No one raises a flag, so Liverpool have to play the ball, and they end up giving away a corner at one point from a ball that was basically pumped long to Rashford, who was offside, and there's no flag going up.
This is what bothers me too. If in the situations where where a guy is clearly offside, waiting on video assisted review to bail the referee out.
Yeah,
that's how you get a player like Jordan Pickford barreling through Virgil van Dijk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He'll pull out of that if he knows, this is offside and it's been flagged.
Yeah,
like there is a reason that they you want to play through to give the attacker the advantage, but at the same time, part of the reasons that referees are there, yes, to make sure the game is fair, but also to make sure that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah. So in Henderson railed, he went after Tierney on the one. I don't know if you saw, he was screaming at him in his face. I think it was the first half. They're pointing out that Rashford was like 2 or 3 yards offside.
Yeah, it wasn't close.
Let the play go on, and he was screaming at him. And then I think in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, I think they actually got 2 corners from plays that were offside, and there were 3 instances where, at least I thought, we should have had corners that they ruled goal kicks. I thought they were like obvious corners, and they didn't. I mean, so a couple, those things go against you. I mean, that's not the whole story, but I think it's part of the story. It's all just very frustrating. Did you see Klopp's comment at the end? I didn't see this. I just read it. Where where he opened the interview to the reporter. He said, "Oh, did you enjoy it?" Sarcastically. Like, it just wasn't an enjoyable match to watch.
No,
I don't think for anyone,
But are they ever? Is it ever enjoyable to play them? Really?
And we have to do it twice in a week.
I will say this. I mean, they did have 2 clear-cut chances that Ali saved us on. They could have easily scored on those 2 chances, and Allison came through big, because it would have hurt a lot more if we had lost that match today, because we were clearly the better team. But
yeah, that's the thing. We had some very good performances in the side. Like Allison was great. Fabinho, I cannot. There's not enough good things that I can, or adjectives that I could think of to describe how much I value Fabinho as a footballer. I thought Thiago was really good, and I just wish that more of the play came through him because, it's an understatement, but yeah, he's got something about him.
So there's a couple of things with Thiago. I actually thought, he's in the World 11, so we know how good he is. I actually thought, like, in the first half, as a team, we played well. I didn't think he was as good as he could be. I don't think today, as good as he was, I think he was pretty good today. He's still not where he's going to be for us. I mean, he's because we know how good he can be. He was giving the ball away here and there, missing some passes he would never normally miss. You could see him getting frustrated with himself. But the other thing that threw me off, and this is where the hot mic comes in. I need to start listening to hot mic, Paul, because like a lot of times I watch the game or listen to it without any of the commentary on, just because it's such nonsense. The beginning of the game, they start talking about, one of the things we haven't talked about in the lead up to the game, and I didn't listen to any of the lead up to the game, was Thiago. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, how did you not talk about Thiago at all in the lead up to this game? Like, his first game at Anfield, he's a world-class player. He's in the World 11, and they were talking about it like, is he going to be ready for the Premier League? It's like that kind of language. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
You got those 2 ex-Man United players on who were they? They're talking about Bruno Fernandes for 30 minutes.
Yeah, they were talking about Bruno. Yeah, like, is he going to be able to match Bruno? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But
Bruno Fernandes is a really good player.
Yeah.
And Thiago did have the defensive responsibility on him quite a bit. Thiago nullified him completely today.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes wasn't in that game.
No. Apart from the moments he was falling over and pretending he was hitting the head. Yeah. Let's move on.
My ear.
Let's move on from that shower. Yes, really, really. Can't say enough about how much I don't like them. Okay, so one other thing I'd say is, and this leads into let's talk about going forward. What's our hope now for the year? But I've said this on a WhatsApp group with Sean that Sean's on to this week, which is people are saying, Man United are going to fade away, and it's like, I don't think they are, because when 2 points, averaging 2 points is good enough to be in the top 4, that's the team they are, and that's what they did last season. So I think a lot of it's on us to get beyond 2 points a game, to kind of leave them in the dust. That being said, we're 1 game away from halfway through the season. What's your hope now? Do you think the league is? I don't want to say it's not an option, but clearly something needs to change in terms of our form if we're going to get back in a position where we're going to win this. Justin, what's your take on the league now?
I mean, if I was anybody in the league right now, I'd want to be Manchester City, because they are coming into form at the right time. And United's not the team I'm scared of. I think that Solskjaer holds them back way too much with just the fact that he doesn't really he has 2 tactics. He hopes that they get him through it. We saw one today, which is against top teams, and they get nothing from top teams. I think that's where they're going to fall apart in the second half, because we've been really good against the top teams this season. It's just been against the crap, and we got Burnley this week. It's an opportunity to right that, where we just haven't been ruthless enough.
Yeah.
So it's the type of thing where I think if we could start getting on a run where we get results against the Burnleys of the league, then we have a fighting chance. But at the same time, every single day that City gets stronger, and they won again today, is another day that I don't think that I think we could compete with, like, if everything's healthy, everybody's healthy, we can compete with them, but everybody's not. And if we don't get a center back in, I think it's basically over. Because I think in some big games we would need to play Matip and another recognized center back, so Fabinho could be effective in the position where we need him more. So for me, it's basically, there's a league that's there. We could still win it. There's plenty of time to. If we beat City at Anfield, even with their game in hand, it's right back there where they just have it'll be a 1 point gap at that point, assuming they win their game in hand, which is Villa, which you can't assume because Villa's a good side. There's a shot. And I think that we should buy a center back for Klopp, because that's what we need to do to compete.
Yeah.
I think playing Henderson at center back is, weakens our midfield a lot. I would have liked Jordan Henderson in the midfield today, or Fabinho, or both in the midfield today, because that's what they are. They're both midfielders, right? Mm-hmm. Fabinho, maybe you could play, maybe his long-term features at center back, but you need someone else who does what he does in the midfield, which we don't have. Even Jordan Henderson doesn't do that. I think there's a chance. I don't want to write it off. There's plenty of football left. They have to come to us. We've already been to them. So I think we can do it. I don't think we're capable of competing on two fronts. I think it's going to be league or Champions League, depending on, and assuming we can get through Red Bull quick, the Champions League might still be an option for trying to get silverware. I just don't think we have the squad depth at the moment to compete on those two fronts. And as much as I would say that I want us to kind of bin off the FA Cup, can't do that now. We got United next week.
So Sean, is that where are you now on our league title chances?
I think I'm more optimistic than most Liverpool supporters are right now on our league title chances, because I look at it, where are you right now? Where are we today? Like, forget about the last 5 games. We're right there with everyone. I mean, City is a little bit ahead of everyone. It's worrying because City's recent form is pretty close to, the form they had in 17-18 and 18-19. If you look at average points per match and all that, over the last, I think, 8 or 9 games, they're on like a 95 point, average kind of run, which I don't think we can. I just be honest, like, even if we get a center back, I do not think we can keep up with that for the rest of the season. But I'm not sure they'll keep that up. And I think we're better than all these other teams. Like, other than Man City, I just think we're better than all these other teams. There was one point earlier in the year that I thought, Spurs was maybe like closer to us in Man City than everybody else, but I don't really even think that anymore. I think there's sort of like a group of 4 or 5 behind us in Man City. So I think it's going to be either us or Man City. I don't think United's going to be able to keep this up. They're just not very good. I mean, if you watch them, they're getting results, but they're getting results by getting penalties or a deflected goal or this, that, or the other. The one thing I would really like to see, especially against these teams that are parking the bus, whether you play Henderson at center back or not, I want Klopp to just go for it, like push the fullbacks forward. Let's get back to trying to play the way we used to. I know we don't have the center backs. It's dangerous to play that way, but I love Jurgen Klopp to death, and I would never be like overly critical of him. But I think, if anything, these last 4 or 5 games we've just been a little bit too conservative in how we've played. I think if we had been a little bit more aggressive and just tried to go out there and blast these teams away, maybe we would have got more results. I just want to start seeing us score goals again, like we did before. We were the defensive powerhouse, and we were blasting teams away with 4 or 5 goals a match, and we were playing sort of recklessly at times. I think it's kind of it's worth giving that a shot at this point. I think that's the only way we're going to really start challenging for things, because we're not going to make up for the fact that we don't have Van Dijk and Gomez, and realistically Matip's not going to be around for all the games. Even if we buy a center back, which I think I agree we should, it's not going to make up for all that. So our best chance is just to try to score our way to the title.
Which right now we're not doing. So
Right.
Final few thoughts then. Maybe we'll focus in on the Burnley game, and then kind of what kind of team you think he's going to pick against Man United. But a couple of things I just wanted to close with. One was, I don't know if you saw, but Dejan Lovren's Instagram feed had pictures of Virgil van Dijk in Dubai running around. Am I dreaming, thinking, if we get through Leipzig, he might be available for the Champions League? So there's kind of one stream of thoughts. Shaqiri, we didn't mention him at all today, but actually thought for the first 30 minutes, we had United kind of on the back foot. And a lot of it, I think, was about some of the interplay, Shaqiri playing between the lines. So Burnley Thursday, and then next Sunday away at United. Kind of thoughts on that before we close, Justin?
So I think for Burnley, you have to go out with something similar to what we have here. That said, the only change I might make is I'd put Henderson back in midfield, and Nat Phillips or Reece Williams should be fine for this game, right? Nat Phillips against a team that likes to play aerially and doesn't really enjoy the ball that much. Not going to try to get behind you because, Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes are not guys who ever look to get behind. Like they're hit them in the chest or in the head, and then hope that one of the outside guys can run onto it. I'm fine with the lineup like we had today, but we need to see Thiago against them because Deitch, like we said, loves to play a low block. That is, he is the, heir apparent to Tony Pulis as the skilled, impressor of a low block tactical setup. And I think that we absolutely need to see Thiago because I think we need him to create chances to pick that lock because nobody's doing it right now. I think he was the one who looked most likely to doing that today. I retain the fact that I think he's probably the one most likely to doing that. And then against United, I'm going with a strong side. It's Manchester United. I don't love the FA Cup as a competition anymore because I feel like it's just, especially this year with the fixture congestion, it's awful. But I don't like going out to them. I'm constitutionally drawn up to dislike Manchester United at this, to where if we're playing against them, we need to be trying to beat them.
Yeah. It is unfortunate, I think, that we end up playing like Everton, and it's like you can't not put out some kind of team against Everton, right? You can't not put out some kind of team against United.
There's pride to play for here.
Yeah. Would have been
yeah.
I think Villa would have been happy to give up on, right?
But but it's also just really frustrating that I think City are playing against like a non-league Welsh side for the 18th straight cup competition.
Yeah, that's another rabbit hole.
Those stats are looking a bit suspicious, aren't they?
Yeah.
So Sean, final word then. Hot and heavy on United, and then Burnley.
Yeah, I agree with almost everything Justin said. Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably play Nat against
that's a good show.
Burnley, and I don't know. Me personally, I feel like we should, unless we buy a new center back, which there's not a lot of time to do. I think we should go with Reece center back and put Henderson in the midfield. I've been saying for weeks now, I really, really, really want to see a Gini Wijnaldum, Thiago, Henderson midfield. I feel like we can match any team in the world with that midfield. And yeah, we're gonna have a weakness at center back. But again, like I feel like the team is being held back because we're so worried about the weakness that we're never going to be able to replace. Like we should just play on our strengths, the strengths that we have. And, I think we're in a position to do that if we can play that midfield and just try to score. I'd love for us to go out and I don't really care how we win the Burnley game as long as we get a win, but I would love for us to go out and just blast United. I don't want to see us play like we did today. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see a conservative approach.
So I don't know how conservative they were in the first 30 minutes, but I'm going to watch it back. And when we record next week's show, after which we'll play Burnley and Man United, I will pick up on how cautious we were, because I don't think we were particularly in that first 30 minutes. And we're going to end this actually. I think we're out of time. Justin, thanks so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed having you chat about all things Liverpool. It would have been even nicer if we'd have obviously picked up 3 points against them. But thanks for joining us. Thanks again, Sean.
Thanks, Justin.
We will see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe.